Going down already from Curse into the river by Dragon. I think they may just try and decide to defend a potential invade. We don't want any snafus like we had last time.
Yeah, neither team in particular has a spectacular level 1. Curse definitely has more sustained damage with those Karthus Qs. They can poke that out, but at the same time, we've got Cleaves from Mundo. So really, both teams know they're not going to pick anyone off. They just want to kind of continue with their regular jungle. Just allow their carries to kind of get farmed. Nocturne wants to get this blue so he can jungle up to speed with Mundo, and it'll be interesting to watch. I'm kind of curious whether or not Karthus will try and push aggressively in this mid lane. Karthus has the range advantage over Ryze and actually can slow Ryze as well before Ryze can get in range to snare. So if Karthus decides to try and push Ryze into the tower, Ryze will have a little bit more difficulty, but at the same time, Ryze can farm. It'll probably just turn into a free farm lane until we start seeing the jungle presence, and so that's really key. I think bot is our aggression lane. And then once level 6, we'll probably see kind of a passive game until we hit level 6 with Nocturne. And it'll be interesting to see if Mundo is trying with any early counter jungling. I
also want to take a quick note. I just want to take a look at elements for a second. Playing Leona with the best skin. Yes!
Iron Solari jumping up in the crowd. He's just like, boom, take that. The best skin.
So we got the CV going down around Curse's blue buff. They do have an idea where Crumbs is at the moment. Mundo gonna go ahead and take the red buff in their own jungle. So he will be a little bit of a threat with that red very early on. So we may see level 2 gank. He's gonna go ahead and wander right back over. Blue buff going to Reginald straight away, but he took quite a chunk though from that golem.
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of low here, but he will be able to use those health pots to get back up in lane. It's really interesting starting to see these buffs being passed to the solo lanes. And actually, we see Dyrus chasing down Pobelter up top, going to get in some nice damage there. There's the little axe throw. But giving Reginald this blue buff, he can spam a little bit against Karthus. And Odd One coming in
around the Crumbs. Red buff, he hasn't decided to finish yet, but Crumbs,
whoever gets this
he's in a bit of a precarious situation. Odd One decides to go in on Crumbs while he's still in the pit. He has to flash away. He's still exhausted and stealing the red buff out from under his nose.
Yeah, and so that's going to be huge if he can set Crumbs behind, and that's really what Mundo brings to the table. He's one of the best duelists in the game and one of the fastest junglers, so he can just be really aggressive, go after that red. I wasn't sure if he was going to have time because he started off with the Wraiths down here, but was able to get in range, and the rest of the lanes doing pretty well for TSM, but that early jungle advantage is definitely huge, since Curse's aggression is primarily going to come from Nocturne hitting 6.
So while we have a little bit of lull in the action, I've just been updated that CLG has won game 1 between themselves and Dignitas, so it's good for them. We're going to heading on into the next round very shortly, but we do have TSM and Curse right here at the moment. Odd One wandering down, going to be stealing some raids. And Coppin Elements are doing a pretty good job down bottom, shoving the lane. TSM they're playing, once again, defensive a little bit on the bot lane.
Yeah, and I just love this play from Odd One. Once again, stalling Nocturne from hitting that 6. Just, spending all that time in that top lane. And that's definitely going to work out for them. And then, Olaf, he started off down a little bit mana, trying to get that blue buff for Ryze. He burned a lot of his mana, so we saw some aggression against Vlad, and we saw he definitely had an advantage, but not nearly as much as if he was full mana. So now Olaf, knowing he's going to push, he's able to pick up that ward to protect himself against Nocturne, and he has that full mana, and actually getting a mana pot, so he's going to be able to just constantly spam against Pobelter and see if he can get some great harass off that way.
Pobelter does have a little bit of an XP lead over Dyrus though, but we'll see how that translates as we go later on into the game. Dyrus definitely has the damage to take out Pobelter, or at least shove him back to tower if need be. But look at this, Crumbs once again wandering his own jungle, and Odd One is there stealing his stuff, and there's not a whole lot Crumbs can do about it.
Yeah, and that's good ward coverage by Curse, recognizing that Mundo's going to be coming in there. kind of hopping all around because I'm curious. All these lanes have a lot of burst potential. There's
Oh,
Elements
bot
jumping
lane.
on Chaos. A lot of damage going off. They actually used the Ignite, so he's going to have to back off. But the sustain that Soraka has should be able to get him back up as long as he doesn't run into Elements. So he's coming in right again. There's the exhaust, and Elements chasing him down. Gets the pull underneath the tower, but the Flash is going to back off there. And Chaos now chasing him down, so they're very close to getting that kill. In the meantime, Dyrus doing pretty well top, but Chaos almost able to turn that around. And then some, just aggression from TSM all through these lanes. Reginald pushing right up onto Karthus, spamming underneath the tower.
So health pots being chugged by Cop and Elements, trying to stay in lane just a little while longer. And they don't really have much left after that. They're both on their last potion, so if they get chunked out again, they will have no choice but to back to town. Reginald, Odd One, pushing up in the mid. Nightjackie doing what he can to farm with those skills onto those minions, and once again, Odd One at the Wraith camp, stealing stuff. There's not, like I said, there's not a whole lot Crumbs can do about it. Odd One can just go ahead and do that all day long.
Yeah, now that Nightjackie's a little bit out of mana, he will be getting, blue buff in about a minute, but we see Reginald just able to continue that control in that mid lane and see if he can, slow down Karthus' farm a little bit. But we do see, there's the ward from Pobelter, but Odd One is already up and about, not going to be able to get in range in time. So Pobelter will be pretty safe in this top lane since Dyrus is a bit low, didn't go back in that last exchange.
Top lane is warded by both teams. Pobelter saw Odd One trying to make his way up. Is like, you know what? No, I know you're there. Nothing's going to happen. You might just want to back off there. But now that TSM has the advantage bot lane, they're using it as much as they can. They're just going to go ahead and push to tower at the next opportunity because they have no more health potions.
Oh, Pobelter in that top lane throws off the ultimate, throws off the ignite. There's the
Requiem.
Karthus ultimate coming as well, and the first blood going to Curse. Dyrus going down. He had been doing so well in that top lane, but Pobelter hit 6 before Dyrus did because he's pushing, and so was able to get that aggressive kill along with Karthus' help.
Requiem coming down just for a little bit of insurance, just in case that ult wasn't enough to finish the job. But Dyrus dying top lane, and he'll have to get back as soon as he can. Exhaust and Ghost are burned for him as well, so he's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage for the next few minutes as well, right when he comes back up there. But Odd One taking the blue now. It's not just the race; he's taking blue as well. This is counter jungling so
yeah, and that's huge. Keeping that blue off of Karthus. Karthus has to spam. Generally, his mana okay. Nightjackie's definitely going to want to get a couple of mana items. Is working on that catalyst because he knows that TSM is going to be extremely aggressive, not allow that blue, and then Rise going to be able to take this. We saw Dyrus checking for a second to make sure that Curse wasn't hopping down there to steal their blue in retaliation. But Rise, again, is just going to be able to continue that advantage. And now Rise has that spam ability where Karthus needs to watch out. There's definitely the potential for the kill there.
Karthus working, I believe, towards the catalyst. We might see a Rod of Ages coming in from him later. Tyr being bought by Rise, very mana-dependent champion that's going to help boost his abilities as well. Looks like Crumbs will finally get a buff of his own, getting red buff for him there, yes. And then Chaos Saying Special once again being pushed to tower now that Cop and Elements have had a little bit of a time to go ahead, back, and buy.
But here's the concern. Olaf definitely has that burst damage. There is always that threat that he can just chase down, Vladimir, pick up the kill with that spam ability, with those axes. But Vladimir is definitely at a little bit of sustain advantage at this point because he was able to get that early kill. So that kind of a matchup, whether or not Vlad can sustain against Olaf, getting that ranged harass versus Olaf's just, kill potential is always going to be interesting because Vladimir started off with that early advantage, able to pick up the kill there. It might, push the lane in his favor.
Pobelter, Dyrus still going at it, and looks like Reginald's being a little bit aggressive on Nightjackie, just getting those Qs in whenever he can. Just show him who's boss, get a little bit of damage on him, and Reginald does have blue buff while Nightjackie does not. So he's going to be a little bit more sustaining in the mid, and the minion wave will be pushing to him, so let's have to go ahead and farm at power as well. Nightjackie will decide to go and back. Yeah, he's got enough for his catalyst, I believe, and a little bit of something, but he's actually going to get the blasting wand first, just for a little bit extra AP, a little bit extra damage to bring back with him in the mid.
Now, I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see Nocturne coming down bottom for a second here, because it was kind of that sweet spot, elements hitting level 6. You know, Soraka, especially, he wasn't level 6 yet, and so they almost could have had that tower dive gank that we were talking about, just a really aggressive gank down there. Odd One, once again, just not letting up, just completely unrelenting pressure on Nocturne. But now, you know, Special level 6, they can avoid some of that burst potential, and then Cog should be able to farm with the range that he has. So it'll primarily turn into a free farm lane, but we are seeing Nocturne coming down here. He is going to be in range, you know, sees the pink ward, dropping it down for Dragon, and knows that there's no vision there. So actually no vision for TSM, so we'll see whether or not they dive this. That's always the threat when you have the Leona Nocturne combo.
Crumbs has the ability to sneak down around into the bush, but he's just going to go ahead, decide to get the rest of his team, and I think Curse is going to go ahead here, engage on this Dragon, see if they can get the first one of the game. And right now, it seems that TSM is really none the wiser.
Yeah, I mean, they had the pink ward. They don't have great ward coverage from TSM. They have a strong Dragon team. If Karthus comes down, he's actually just going to sit mid and, you know, keep Reggie at bay, but a quick Dragon for Curse, and so now they've got a little over 1,000 gold advantage, and Odd One, once again, stealing all those wraiths. All your wraiths are belong to me, just not allowing, you know, Nocturne to get in there. But, yeah, so, you know, definitely some fantastic counterplay there.
I wish I came up with that one, damn. Damn. Anyway, Pobelter, Dyrus, once again, is so Dyrus, we got a little bit of something. We got 2 null magic mantles on him to help mitigate some of the damage Pobelter's dishing out. We also got the Fan Scepter, but Nocturne coming in onto Chaos. He's stuck in a Tribush. Requiem coming down as well. We got the stun. We got everything going down. He's got nowhere to go.
Wow, and so there you saw, even with the flash in, even though Elements was just barely out of range to get the pull, they just have so much burst potential. Soraka can't account for it. Kog'Maw doesn't have that great survivability that, you know, a champion like Corki or Ezreal would. And so they're able to just combo their stuns, get that damage out there. And Dyrus and Pobelter just exchanging here. Pobelter might actually chase Dyrus down. There's the ultimate and the ignite. So he's chasing. We have the exhaust going off on the Dyrus, but he's very close to going down, just barely surviving in that top lane. Karthus' ultimate just down from a second ago, able to pick up that kill bottom, but Pobelter really, you know, wielding his might in that top lane.
I was about to say Karthus ult was like, oh no, wait, no, he used it.
Oh, right, yeah.
So,
but pretty good game so far for Curse, even though, you know, we do have a very aggressive team from TSM. And Curse, they definitely have, with the dual AP, they have great late game scaling. The concern is that all these tanky champs are generally a pretty strong counter to AP. If you can survive through the burst damage, then, you know, you do pretty well. AD, physical damage, that's generally what you want to run against, you know, really tanky champs like Mundo, like Rise. So that'll be an interesting dynamic as the game progresses.
So 12 minutes in, we got about 2K gold lead in favor of Curse. Nijaki being pushed to tower, but right now it looks like bottom lane is also equalized just a little bit in the push, but it looks like TSM will go ahead clear the wave, push them to tower as well. Blue buff being passed on to Nijaki. He will take that back with him to the mid. But it looks like Odd One and Reginald are being a little bit aggressive. I think they're trying to go in to steal the blue as well, but they decided, you know what, we'll back off. We can just push tower instead because Karthus isn't here. So it gets free damage on that tower, and then they'll back off once that wave's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice to be able to get that early advantage. Until Cog really gets farmed, they don't have the best early game, you know, presence pushing towers. So anything that you can take gives them some great map control. And then as the game progresses, once Cog gets farmed, they can definitely just use